All right. Testing, testing, testing. Okay. So, just a trigger warning for anyone who's going to be watching this. We are going to be talking about some very sensitive topics um, regarding family systems. Um, I'm going to put in the link to my uh, website for Restoring You. Let me do that right now. As well as the podcast website. If you're looking for some further support, because you might need this further support. I think you can hear me. If you cannot hear me, testing, testing. Yes, you can hear me. Okay. I have a new mic, so. All right. And then after I put in this information, we'll get started. Okay, I'm just putting in my things so you guys can have it. Because once we get going, I'm going to be talking about some hard things. And that link looks like a lot. I hope it goes through for you guys. Okay. So I'm going to try this. There's another thing I can do. I can get a shorter link. And then I'll get started with talking. Okay. Someone in the chat or in the replay uh, has been to a doctor, maybe multiple doctors, and walked out feeling like they made the whole thing up. Maybe you went in describing chest tightness or fatigue that won't lift, or headaches that come with no warning. And the doctor looked at the blood work and said, everything looks fine. And instead of relief, you felt shame because the people in your family have been saying that for years. You are too sensitive. You're dramatic. There's nothing wrong with you. And now medicine is saying it too. I want to talk to you tonight about what is actually happening in your body and in your family system when that is your story. Let's try these. Bear with me, guys. Okay. I'd like to welcome you to Elisha Space, a sanctuary for healing growth and for the kind of honest conversations that actually change things. I'm Elisha, your host, a counselor and author, and someone who has sat in the same stuck places you have. If you're brand new here, welcome. I am genuinely glad that you found the space tonight. If you've been listening for a while, I see you and I'm glad that you're back. Tonight, we're going to do two things. We're going to look at narcissistic medical gaslighting, what it is, why it happens, and why your body remembers it even when you've talked yourself out of it. And then we're going to zoom out and look at the family system that produces it. Because medical gaslighting doesn't happen in a vacuum, it is a function of a system. So stay with me. Tonight's live is practical, clinical, but pastoral. So, whether you are reviewing this in a replay or if you are reviewing this in a chat and you're in the bushes, I just want to settle us together. If you're on a phone, put it down somewhere where you can still see it. And if you're in a car, please don't do this part right now. I want you to place both hands on your chest, not because we're doing something spiritual yet, we'll get there, but because your hands are warm and your chest is carrying a lot tonight. And the body needs to know that you are with it before we start asking it to remember hard things. So take one breath in through your nose, slow, and let it out through your mouth with a soft sound. One more in and out. Good. That's your nervous system hearing. We are not in danger right now. We are learning. There's a difference. And let's hold on to that. So I want to welcome you as whether you're in the replay or you're in the chat for listening in. And if you have ever left a doctor's appointment feeling worse about yourself than when you walked in, not because the news was bad, but because you were made to feel like what you were describing wasn't real, I want you to know that I really do see you. I acknowledge that. That it's not a coincidence. It can be, especially when there's community, a shared wound. And tonight we're going to call it by its name. So let me start with a definition because I want to be precise. Medical gaslighting is when a healthcare provider dismisses, minimizes, or pathologizes your physical or emotional symptoms in a way that causes you to doubt your own body's experience. Now, that happens in the general medical world for all kinds of reasons: systematic bias, overtaxed providers, cultural blind spots. But narcissistic medical gaslighting is something more specific. It's what happens when the gaslighting you receive in a medical context is continuous with the gaslighting you have already been trained to accept in your family of origin. In other words, the doctor dismissing you isn't the original injury, it's the reenactment of it. So your nervous system has been rehearsing it for that moment ever since childhood. You already knew how to go silent in the face of someone with authority telling you that your pain isn't real, because you had to learn that to survive your family, and that's not weakness, that's a survival map. Now, there are two directions that this shows up, and I want to name both of them tonight because they look very different on the outside, but they come from the same source. And the first is medical denial. This is the parent who does not take their child to the doctor, who minimizes illness, who says, "Oh, you're fine, you're not sick, get up," who withholds medical care as a form of control. If you got sick and the response was to be told you were being dramatic, that your body's needs were an inconvenience, that's where you learn to distrust yourself. And some of you grew up not knowing that you had untreated conditions for years: ear infections, vision problems, depression, anxiety, because asking for help was not safe. Now, the second direction is medical weaponization. And this is the inverse. This is the parent who over medicated you, who brought you to doctors repeatedly, not because you were sick, but because being sick means that the parent got attention, or because labeling you as fragile kept you dependent, or because a diagnosis gave them a narrative to control. And some of you grew up being told that you had conditions you may not have had, or being given medications that weren't appropriate, or having your mental health weaponized against you in custody disputes, or with extended family, or in the church. And both of these are medical gaslighting in a narcissistic family system. Both teach your body the same lesson. Your symptoms are not yours to report honestly. Your body exists to serve the family story. So I will let that sit for just a moment because I know I gave you a lot. All right, Savda, see you when I see you. Now, here's where we get clinical because I need you to understand that what you are experiencing is not imaginary. It has a neurological signature. When you grew up in a home where your body cues are constantly dismissed or weaponized, the hypothalamic pituitary adrenaline axis, what we call the HPA axis, your stress response system, it gets recalibrated. What that means in plain language is this: your system learned to either over-report or underreport physical distress, not because you're broken, because your nervous system is adaptive. And this is why some survivors show up to the doctor with pain levels that seem disproportionate. Their system is amplified after years of being ignored. And this is why some survivors show up to the doctor describing symptoms so flatly, so calmly, that the doctor doesn't register the severity because their system learned that expressing pain leads to punishment, not care. You weren't being dramatic and you weren't underreacting. Your nervous system was doing exactly what it was shaped to do. Knowledge isn't just power for trauma survivors, knowledge is safety. So, what do we do with this going forward? Three things, and I want you to write these down. One, bring a witness. When you go to a medical appointment for something that feels significant, especially anything related to mental health, chronic pain, or symptoms you've been doubting, bring someone. Not to speak for you, but to be a witness that what you said is what you said. The presence of another person regulates your nervous system and it creates accountability in the room. Two, write before you speak. Trauma survivors often disassociate under authority. So that doctor's white coat triggers your nervous system before they've said a word. Write your three primary symptoms on your phone before you walk in. If your mind goes blank, that's not evidence that you're making it up. That's a trauma response. So refer to your notes. And three, name the dismissal once. If a provider dismisses you, you are allowed to say, I want to make sure this is documented. I'm describing a situation and I want it noted that I reported it. You don't have to fight, you don't have to convince, you just need a paper trail. That gives your body a different signal than silence does. So let's go ahead and go forward. So I want to check in with you. What landed for you? Was it the denial piece or the weaponization piece that felt like your story? Drop a D for denial or a W for weaponization in the chat. Don't overthink it, your gut knows. Now we're going to pivot and talk about narcissistic family systems because you can't do one without the other. The word system is important, and I don't use it casually. A family system is a living organism, not just a collection of individuals who share a last name. An organism with rules, roles, and shared survival logic. So, healthy family systems have flexibility. The rules can bend, members can change. The system serves the people inside it. In a narcissistic family system, the organism serves the narcissist. So, every role, every dynamic, every unwritten rule in the house exists to protect the narcissist image, manage their emotional volatility, and ensure supply. And here is what is critical to understand. You were assigned a role in that system before you had language, before you could read, before you knew what gaslighting was, before you had a word for any of it. Your nervous system was already learning its job in that family. And that job is still running in you today, in your medical appointments, in your relationships, in how you respond to authority, and how much space you allow yourself to take up. So let me walk you through the primary roles in a narcissistic family system, because naming them is the beginning of separating who you are from what you were trained to be. The narcissistic parent is the center of the system's gravity. Everything orbits them. Their moods set the temperature of the house. Their needs take precedence. And critically, they maintain control through information management, deciding what is true, what is remembered, what is said in public, what happened, and what didn't. Then there is the enabling partner. And I want to say this carefully, is not always a willing participant in the abuse. Many enabling partners are themselves trauma survivors, deeply conditioned to appease, but functionally, what they do is protect the narcissist from accountability. They are the ones who say, you know how your mother is, and just don't bring it up. They are often the ones who enable the medical gaslighting, who don't take you to the doctor because it would upset their partner, or who take you repeatedly because it keeps the peace of the home. Then there is the identified patient. It is the role many of you live. This is the child who is labeled as the problem: too sensitive, too anxious, too sick, too difficult. The family's dysfunction lives in the identified patient's body so that the system doesn't have to acknowledge where it's actually coming from. So some of you were in therapy as children, not because you needed it, but because your presence in a therapist's office meant that you were the problem. The system was managing you. The scapegoat carries the family shame. Every family needs somewhere for the dysfunction to land, and the scapegoat is where it lands. The scapegoat is often the most truth-telling member of the family, which is why they are targeted. Truth-telling is a threat to the system's survival. So if you're watching tonight and you were the one who got in trouble for saying out loud what was actually happening, you weren't the problem. You were the truth teller. That role cost you something, and I want to honor that. The golden child gets the opposite assignment. And I want to say something that is rarely said. Golden child also harm. Their word is conditioned on performance. Their identity was built to serve the narcissist's ego. Often have the hardest time recognizing the abuse experience of the family overtly pain. The flying monkey family members, church members, to the well-meaning, they knowing in that map. It happens. People in the house, unspoken, exist to prevent the truth from being acknowledged. We don't talk about that. What happens in this house? You move on. That's perfect. If your body symptoms system, so the system use office years later, and you have already done the work of dismissing yourself before the doctor even speaks. This is not a character flaw. This is learned self suppression, and it can be unlearned. So let your nervous system hear that it can be unlearned. One more piece I want to name before we move into practice. And this is the one that will matter to those of you who are now parents. Narcissistic family systems are generationally transmitted, but not always through narcissism. Sometimes the transmission is codependency. The child who was trained to silence their needs because the parent who can't hold their child's needs without anxiety, not because they're cruel, because they were never given permission to have needs themselves. Sometimes the transmission is hypervigilance, the parent who is constantly scanning for danger, reading their child's cues with an intensity that is loving but overwhelming. Generational healing is not dramatic. It usually happens in small, quiet moments. The moment you take your child to the doctor when they say something hurts, and you believe them without needing them to prove it. The moment you say, I'm not feeling well out loud to your own household without shame, without minimizing it. And that is the chain breaking right there in the ordinary. Okay, I want to hear from you again. If you're comfortable, whether it be in the replay or in the live, okay, what role in the family map was yours? Was it the scapegoat, the identified patient, the golden child, flying monkey, peacekeeper? Or just describe it in your own words and drop it in the chat. I want to affirm you. You were not confused. You were not wrong. You were assigned. And tonight, you get to put it down. I want to give your body something to hold on to tonight. We're going to do what I call safe testimony, a short somatic practice for when you have been in an environment, a medical office, a family gathering, a phone call with a parent that has activated the survival map. This is not visualization, this is physiology. Let's do it together. Hand on your chest if you're able. Take a deep breath in through your nose, slow from the belly, and out through the mouth with a soft sound like a sound of relief. Good. One more. Out. Now, under your hands, I want you to simply feel your heartbeat. You don't have to count it, you don't have to judge it. Just feel that it's there. That heartbeat has been with you in every medical office, every appointment where you were dismissed, every phone call where your symptoms were made into a joke or a burden, and it kept beating. I want you to say to your own body, silently or out loud, I believe you. I believe what you've been carrying. I believe what you've been trying to tell me. I'm not going anywhere. Is there tension somewhere right now? Your shoulders, your jaw, the back of your throat? You don't have to fix it. Just notice that it's there. Let your nervous system hear that you are not running from it. Breathe into whatever that tension lives. And on the exhale, just a little softer. Good. Stay here for just a moment. Your body has been a truth teller all along. It wasn't lying to you, it was trying to reach you. And tonight, you showed up. I want to hold both of these truths together before we close, the clinical and the pastoral. Your body was made by someone who knit together every nerve pathway, every receptor, every part of that HPA axis we talked about in the first half of tonight's live. The nervous system that you have been leaning to regulate, it was designed. It was spoken into by a God who understood stress responses before we had words for them. And the peace that he offers, I want to be precise about this tonight. His peace is not dependent on your family changing. It is not contingent on a doctor finally believing you. It is not on hold until the system heals. His peace is a regulated nervous system in the presence of a safe God. Let's pray. Father, I am grateful that you made these bodies, that you knit together the very nervous systems that we are learning to regulate. For everyone in this space tonight who has sat in a room where their pain was dismissed, I ask that you would be the witness they didn't have. For the one who was the scapegoat, who paid with their reputation for telling the truth, let them know tonight that you saw what happened and that you called it wrong even when the family called it normal. For the one who is still in the system, still at the dinner table, still answering the phone calls, still trying to hold it together, give them greater discernment, give them protection, give them at least one person in their lives who sees clearly. And for everybody in this space, let healing begin, not in the dramatic moments, but in the ordinary ones, in the quiet decision to believe what our own bodies are telling us, in the courage to say, I am not feeling well, and let that be enough. You are safe, you are seen, and you are not alone in this. In Jesus' name, amen. I want to give you a 7-day challenge to carry. This week, I want you to practice safe testimony with your own body. Here's what that means practically. Once a day, I want you to check in with your body and believe what it tells you without filtering it through someone else's narrative. Are you tired? Rest without justifying it. Are you in pain? Acknowledge it without minimizing it. Does something feel off? Trust that without needing external permission. That's the practice. 7 days, one check in a day, just you and your body, rebuilding the trust that a family system tried to take from you. And if this live helped you, share it, text it to one person you know is struggling. You never know who is sitting in a doctor's office this week, feeling like they imagined the whole thing. Maybe tonight's replay is for them. You can find the start guide and everything else we've built together at my website. It's also in the chat, and the link is pinned there in the description also. Until next time, you're not too much, you're not too far, and you are not alone. I also want to mention that tomorrow at 8 a.m., there is a podcast episode coming out where it's called The Family Secret That Almost, well, no, it's not called that. I'm sorry. It's called He Was Sick at 5 and No One Helped, where he talks about a story of narcissistic abuse, chronic illness, and healing. And it is with someone who is, his name is Dr. Brad, and he talks about his healing story and his healing journey in regards to how he walked out of a situation from his childhood of being within a narcissistic family, as well as the medical gaslighting that he experienced as an adult. It got to a point where he would get sick as a little boy eating the family food. So when he was 5 years old, he started cooking his own food. He wouldn't eat the food that the other family members had. He would fix his own. So imagine a 5-year-old doing that. So be looking out for that episode if this interests you, because I earmark different places in his journey of healing that I think will also be helpful and will add to your journey of healing as well. I'm looking forward to talking to you guys at the next live, and I hope you have a fantastic and wonderful evening. Good night.